I gotta admit, I don't know why I'm predicting this midterm. You may think I'm excited for this, but honestly, I'm really not. I mean, you can easily feel the lack of Trump in American politics right now. Never has an election year where Roe v. Wade gets overturned, several horrific mass shootings occur, World War III kind of begins, the economy enters stagflation, among several other chaotic things, felt so boring and the stakes felt so low. But don't let the absence of the fat orange man make you think he's not a big piece of this election. Because even though we're 2 years removed from his defeat, he's still a large centerpiece of all this chaos. How could he not be? Him and his buddy, Joe Biden, who we'll get to in the moment, have pretty much dominated the airwaves since the 2020 election ended. And pretty much every Republican that matters this year is imitating Trump. And most Democrats, minus a couple, still act as if he's on the ballot this year. Now, as dumb as this sounds, it actually might be a smart idea that both parties are doing this. Because according to vote projection models, this midterm election may end up having more votes cast than the 2016 presidential election. Trump is simultaneously the best and the worst thing for democracy. On one hand, he's getting us all out the vote. On the other hand, we all turn off our brains when we do so. I love you, America. So, now the question that made you click on this video. Where are all these votes gonna go? Well, now it's time to address the person that's actually President of the United States, Joe Biden, and his party, the Democrats. There's really no sugarcoating it, things don't look good for him or Dems. His approval rating has been worse, but it's currently roughly 11 to 12 points underwater at around 42%. This is around the same level as Trump and Obama in their midterm years, when their parties lost Congress. But overall, midterms aren't always referendums on presidents. They could typically be referendums on Congress and... Oh. Well, okay then. No matter how you look at it, the environment just isn't good for Democrats. And coming into this year, many people believed the Republicans were going to have a historic wave election, as Democrats had failed, and despite some recent accomplishments, have still failed to deliver on most of their 2020 campaign promises. Well, actually, if you consider what Biden was saying in his presidential run, I guess he mostly delivered. However, the decision on Dobbs that overturned Roe v. Wade put Democrats on top for a couple months, this lead lasting until just a couple weeks ago. Republicans are now once again clearly in the lead, and I want to be entirely clear that I was not either a believer in Roe being overturned, causing a good year for Democrats, or the former belief of a historic Republican wave. America isn't the same country it was in 1994, 2006, or 2010. No political party is cruising to big victories anymore. We're both way too partisan, and people on both sides are similarly, if not equally likely to vote for their party's candidate. And when the results come in next week, no matter what, the winning side is definitely going to say they won by a landslide and act really smug about it for weeks on Twitter. So brace yourself for that. When it comes down to it, I never imagined anything significantly far off from what I had assumed at the beginning of the year. That it would be a good year for Republicans, but not a wave. Something along the lines of R+3, if you will. Even in that mid-July to early September period where people were insisting we're looking at a politically neutral or lean blue environment, I always assumed people were gonna just forget about what the Supreme Court did, or at least not prioritize it as much. Inflation got worse, gas prices stayed high. The economy not being viewed as good, mixed in with people angry they lost in 2020, is a double whammy that bodes terribly for any incumbent party. Heck, the latter of these two alone gave Democrats back the House in 2018. A memory that they're probably very fond of, especially right now. Now, that's not to say these economic woes are the fault of Biden and Democrats. They're not, but these issues are typically outside of a president's control. Ditto for COVID-19 and Trump. But if you're the one in power, you're gonna get blamed. That's how it works. By all means, fundamentals have consistently pointed towards Republicans, if nothing else, winning back the House. Even if Roe v. Wade's anger hadn't subsided, I still wouldn't predict a blue House following Tuesday. The party out of power is the party with enthusiasm. So that brings us to my House prediction. The likeliest outcome, in my opinion, is 231 seats for Republicans and 204 for Democrats. which would be a net 20-seat gain for Republicans. This would also be consistent with my expectation of an R+3 environment. Maybe R+4. My confidence interval would range from 5 seats less for this to Republicans to 5 above. So the worst case scenario would be 226 to 209 for Republicans, and their best case scenario is 236 to 199. And that outcome would probably be very devastating for Democrats, to be under 200 seats. This pretty much gives most of the competitive House races to the GOP, but you may have noticed Alaska is lean D. Yeah, Sarah Palin isn't looking so good. Plus, even Republicans there like Pelosi. This is probably the only bright spots Democrats truly have, however, as there's going to be several races in which they're not only going to lose, but they're going to lose quite handedly. Now on to the more challenging prediction, the Senate. This one is really a coin flip. Both parties could win, and it comes down to how several key races are going to go. I'm going to go over 3 outcomes, one that's the best case scenario for Democrats, one that's the best case scenario for Republicans, and the one that I think is most likely. First, the best case scenario for Democrats. This gives them 52 Senate seats to 48 for Republicans. In this scenario, they hold Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and they flip Pennsylvania. No surprise losses. Second, the best case scenario for Republicans, which gives them 54 seats to 46 for Democrats. Here, they'll hold Pennsylvania and pretty much flip every competitive seat, even getting a surprise victory in New Hampshire. And finally, what I feel is the most likely outcome. Republicans will just barely clinch the majority. They'll lose Pennsylvania, and they'll fail to flip Arizona, but they'll hold their competitive seats elsewhere, along with flipping both Nevada and Georgia. Now, I want to be absolutely clear, all of the competitive Senate seats are still races, and they're anyone's to win, which is why I found them so hard to call. Will my prediction be right? Only time will tell. So there you have it, my 2022 midterm election prediction. Thanks for watching. I forgot to talk about the governor's races. Oh well, you guys can predict those on your own. Take care.